Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden, but we're going to head north for this one once again to Dalarna county, where I've been having some very nice beers from recently actually, and we're going to have a look at a beer from another brewery who I have never tried anything from before, but this is one of my favourite styles of Belgian beer actually, so very curious to see what this offering has in store for us. So for this one then we are going to go to very close to Borlänge, which is right in the middle of Dalarna county actually, and we're having a look at my first beer from Sahlins Brygghus. So this one is their Tripel. It comes in at 9.6% ABV, so it's a bit of a monster, and this one was, I think, re-released through the Lokal and Småskaligt assortment in Borlänge on the 1st of July 2020. The reason I say re-released is that there seems to be some, the artwork, if you look at the Untappd page for this beer, the artwork on it is quite different actually to this one, so I'm not sure if, I'm not sure if this one is a rebrew, if they've changed the recipe, or if they've just kind of rebranded the artwork and things like that. It looks like they may well have just rebranded the artwork because the percentage and everything was the same. But yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out. As I've told you many a time on the channel, I do enjoy a nice Belgian Tripel. My other favourite Belgian beers would probably be the Quadrupel, the blonde beer. I do enjoy a nice Flanders Red, and of course thanks to Chris Contreras, one of my subscribers, I've been getting really into the big lambic beers recently. So yeah, nice to have another Swedish brewed Tripel. If you do know any other Swedish brewed quads and Tripels, do let me know. The only ones I can think of that I've had recently, I did have a Quadrupel from Askulte over on Gotland, and I also have had a Quadrupel and a Tripel from Eskilstuna Ölkultur as well. I can't think of any more beyond that. I probably have had some. I've reviewed a ridiculous number of Swedish beers, but do let me know some other ones that I should be checking out, because I do enjoy trying different takes on this beer style. But yeah, let's see how we get on with this one. 9.6% Tripel from Sahlins Brygghus in just outside of Borlänge in Dalarna county. Should be a bit of a beast, this one. So yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done, or I will do in the future, sorry, from Sahlins Brygghus. Very first time I'm trying one of their beers, as I mentioned. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Sahlins Brygghus then, on to my brewery notes. So Sahlins Brygghus is based just outside of Borlänge in Dalarna county to the northwest of Stockholm, and the company was founded back in 2014, and this brewery is actually part of a family ostrich farm, a strutsgård as they would say in Swedish, but the man at the helm of this company is Erik Sahlin, hence the name Sahlins Brygghus, the Sahlin family brew house if you like. So he trained as a brewer at VLB in Berlin, which is a very well respected brewing school, and then his brewery started producing beer in 2015 using a 500 litre brew kit. In the early days they actually had some really severe problems with infections, but they recovered from this with the help of a consultant after having a really quite bad year, to be honest with you. I read about that on beernews.se, and it seemed like it was just horrible for them. Eric actually went as far as saying that the brewery would have gone out of business if it hadn't been for the fact that the farm had other businesses to kind of keep it afloat, if you like. But with the help of that consultant, they managed to recover, get back on their feet, and the beers were back on sale by the end of 2016. The following year, in 2017, they created a beer festival using only folk ale. For those of you watching outside of Sweden, folk ale is the 3.5% stuff. That is the maximum alcohol percentage that you can sell in the supermarkets in Sweden. Anything that is 3.6 or above has to be sold by Systembolaget, the state monopoly store on alcohol. But they also introduced an outdoor bar as well, which I believe operates in the summer. But Eric's father Gunnar, he also grows some grains on the farm. that are malted. I believe it was over in Suderbecke they said they were malting these. But they made about 4 tons of grains to brew in the beer. So I don't know if they have their own kind of speciality grain beer that they do, or if the grains go in all the different beers. But yeah, on the farm they are actually producing some of their own grain, which is then malted and comes back to be used in the beer. So I think that's pretty cool. If you look at certain beers from Sahlins Brygghus, you are getting something that is very, very unique to this specific farm. And of course Sweden does have a considerable heritage, if you like, when it comes to the farmhouse breweries. A good example from the same county, of course, would be Opigård's brewery, who I'm sure maybe will have had some influence on this brewery, if you like. But by the end of 2019, this brewery had produced around 15,000 litres of beer for the year. They had been planning to scale that up over 2020, but I think that's probably gone on the back burner because of the whole COVID-19 situation. But they've also been working on their soft drinks and tonics brand as well, which is called Scandinavian Tonic Sessions. And as of July 2020, when I'm producing this review for you, according to Untappd, Sahlins Brygghus have produced 45 different kinds of beer, and there seems to be a wide variety of different styles in there. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Sahlins Brygghus for the moment. If you want to learn a little bit more, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and of course you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's have a little taste of this one then and see how we get on. Check out all those links as I mentioned. But I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork on this one before we open it up. As you can see, quite nicely presented actually. The older artwork that they had was very, very different. It was a little bit more, it looked a little bit kind of more graphic-y and kind of blocky and stuff like this. I do much prefer the new artwork that they seem to have on this one. As I said, I'm not sure whether this is the first time this beer's come through Systembolaget. It might well be. I mean, maybe this one was only sold in the local stores before, and this is maybe its first nationwide release. That could be another option with it. But yeah, you can also see the ostriches are on the bottle caps here, which is pretty cool. And of course, that you can see the Sahlins farm there. It says, what does it say? Gård producer, it said 1979. So yeah, been producing things on the farm since 1979. That is pretty cool, I have to say. But yeah, it says on the side here, on the family farm Sweden in Sintuna, Dalarna, lies Sahlins Brygghus. So the farm itself is called the Sweden farm. We have brewed this beer with the focus on taste and quality since 2015. Our Tripel brings together malt and malt that was grown in our own fields, and we have used our own sunlight as well from our own. I guess when they're talking about Solcraft, they must mean the brewery is powered by their own solar panels and stuff like this. But this one is a tribute to the Belgian brewing art with herlige yeasttoner, so like basically hearty, prominent, I guess you could say, yeast flavours if you translate that. My translation's not perfect, of course, but yeah, some things. It's always difficult to know exactly which synonym to mention when we're translating these things. But yeah, as I say, nice artwork on this one, beautifully presented, a 9.6% Belgian style Tripel, this one. So yeah, without further ado, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting it. 9.6%, if memory serves me correctly. This one is actually a little bit strong for the Tripels. Usually these ones kind of go between 8.5 and 9%, so they can go up to this. I'm not criticising them for that, but yeah, this one to me does strike me as one of the slightly stronger Tripels that I've come across before. So yeah, cool. Let's see how we go with this one then. Of course, when it's a Belgian style beer, they're always bottle conditioned, and we need to be careful when we pour these. So yeah, just trying to make sure I get a bit of the yeast in this one. There we go, that's what you want. That is a nice pour for a Tripel. You do want a good little bit of head on this because it will fade away quite quickly. And just look at that, we've got the lovely yeasty character. You can see when we poured this, it was pouring a lovely kind of pale golden straw. There is a oh, that does smell very nice. Oh yeah, you can get that lovely doughy yeasty note coming out of the bottle there. But yeah, when you're pouring these beers, you do want to kind of roll the bottom of it. So I don't know if you, I think with Hefeweizens they advise that you roll the bottle, but usually with these ones you can kind of shugle the bottom up and get it in. But yeah, as you can see, this one has poured that typical lovely bright yellow colour. that you would normally expect from a Tripel. Sometimes, usually they're a little bit darker than this, to be honest with you. I mean, this isn't out of the realms of possibility for a Tripel, in my experience, but usually they've got a little bit of... usually they are a little bit kind of darker in their yellow colours actually. To me, this one's the colour that you would expect more of like a Saison or maybe even a wit beer or something like that actually. So that's a kind of interesting point to make about this one. You could see that when this beer was poured, it had at least a finger and a half of a frothy, I would say perfect white head on this one. That's going to fade away quite quickly to be a fairly thin foamy layer, but it is retaining about a 2/3 finger, in fairness. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there. But yeah, if I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see this one is pretty damn hazy. Of course, not as gloopy and soupy as you're going to find from the likes of some of these New England IPAs and stuff, but yeah, definitely not far off some of the New England IPAs that you're going to come across. If we shine the light through it, it is a very, very bright yellow, this one. As I said, some Tripels that you get will be a little bit darker than this. Sometimes they will have a little bit of caramel and things in them. Usually what they do with these beers actually is that they add a little bit of candy sugar to them. I'm not sure if they will have done that. I guess they would maybe say things like, it says, oh, it only contains corn malt. So maybe this one, I'm surprised they haven't mentioned humle in this, actually. I know in some Belgian breweries they put groot in them, which is a kind of herb that is a replacement for the hops actually. So sometimes they put that in their in these beers actually. But yeah, this one, it doesn't say, it only says for inhaler contents, it only says corn malt. It doesn't actually say like candy sugar or hops. So that makes me very curious about this, I have to say. But it certainly smells the part. It certainly does smell how you would expect a Tripel to smell. So yeah, nothing overly surprising about the appearance apart from that it's a little bit brighter. But yeah, let's have a look at that aroma then and just see how we get on. I'm very curious about this beer. Yeah, it's definitely very yeasty and malty. I don't actually get, in fairness to it, I was saying there wasn't hops listed on the bottle there. I don't really get much in the way of a hoppiness out of this one. There is a little bit of a grassy note to it. There's maybe a tiny little bit of an earthiness as well. Quite often with the Tripels, some of them can be quite hoppy, but I think, you know, with sour beers, I know what they do sometimes with the sour beers is they put old hops in them. I'm not sure if they do the same with the Tripels, but the idea behind putting the old hops in the sour beers is so that the bitterness doesn't overpower the sour qualities of the beer. But this one, to me, it does, going by the aroma, it actually smells as if it maybe has only very, very small amounts of hops in it, maybe slightly old hops, but it does, you get a lot of kind of almost aromatic-y, astringent-y type qualities, if you like. I don't know if astringent's the wrong word, but you do get a little bit of aromaticity and grassiness out of this one, but there's something about the way it comes out that makes me suspect it could all be on the yeast. That's interesting, and I just find it really weird that they say that there's not, the bottle doesn't say there's hops in this, but there is a light grassiness to it. There's maybe a tiny little bit of floral character and maybe a very light earthiness. Maybe it's got some kind of Belgian hop in it, but I think most of the breweries outside of Belgium that brew these beers, they'll use like a German noble, you know, like a Hallertau or a Tettnang, or sometimes a Czech Sats or a Slovenian Styrian Goldings or Dana or something like that. They'll use something like this in these beers. But yeah, a little bit of grassiness, a little touch of floral character, mainly grassiness, right enough, and a wee bit of earthiness too. But yeah, the focus on a Tripel is obviously on the yeasty side of things and the malt as well. So for me, this one, straight away, you get that lovely big doughy, bready note that you expect of the Tripel and Belgian beer generally, or yeah, normal Belgian beers, not the sour beers. Yeah, with these ones, it's very, you know, it is very sort of, it's got a lovely, it's almost got a good bit of a wheaty bitiness to it, I would say. You get a lot of those kind of banana notes out of it. I do find this one has quite a bit of that banana note, nice little bit of a clovey character as well. So yeah, sort of white bready base, a little bit of the thicker kind of doughy notes sitting on top of it. Towards the back of the nose you'll get a bit more of the kind of wheaty bitiness out of the beer, but then you've got those lovely doughy yeasty notes in there with a bit of the banana sweetness and a little bit of the kind of clovey spice as well. I like how that, I do like how that all comes out in this one. Very, very nice smelling beer, I have to say. Yeah, thumbs up to Sahlins for this one. They have got the aroma pretty damn good on this. On the fruity side of things then, as I said, you've got a little bit of banana coming out of this one. On the actual sort of, the more oily side of that, because I think the banana always smells as if it's kind of infused in with the bread, you do get a little bit of a kind of apricot-y quality out of this one. You get a few kind of peary, appley esters to it. There's a little bit of a kind of lemony, grassy, citrusy kind of thing as well. So you've got all of these little interesting kind of subtleties coming out of this beer, which is very interesting. This is quite common for these tripels. Usually, as I say, apricots. Sometimes you can get a little bit of a peachy note out of them, but apricots, maybe, you know, pears, a little bit of apple and a kind of appley note. Maybe a little bit of gooseberry in this one as well. In fairness, I do get a little bit of gooseberry at the front of the nose. But yeah, some really interesting kind of notes out of this one. It's almost a little bit kind of like it's almost got like a kind of apricot-y jammy type quality coming out of it. So yeah, the aroma of this one is really nice. In terms of the Tripel style generally, this is definitely one of the less hoppy ones that I've come across. It really leans more towards the kind of smoother side of the yeasty, malty kind of end of the spectrum, but it comes across very, very nicely actually. There's something oddly familiar about this as well, so I am wondering if maybe the yeast strain that they're using could be derived from the likes of Westmalle or something like that. There is something that really makes me think about Westmalle for this one. Maybe their yeast strain that they have is a descendant of the Westmalle or something like that. Who knows? They could have, you know, it's quite a lot of breweries do that, I think, is they kind of grow their own yeasts from famous breweries' yeasts and stuff like that. Whether these guys are doing it though, I don't know. I'm speculating. But yeah, it seems like they've got a nice solid triple in terms of the aroma. So let's look at the flavour of this beer then and see how we get on. So this one is the Tripel, coming in at 9.6% ABV from Sahlins Brygghus, just outside of Borlänge in Dalarna County. That's kind of the middle of Sweden in fairness. But yeah, let's have a look at this one then. Slange, skål, cheers. Yeah, that's pretty damn nice, I have to say. I like how this goes together. It's got quite a kick to it when you take this one in actually. It does have a good bit of an impact. But yeah, if you like the Tripel style as I do, this one is pretty nice. I actually find this one to be a little bit almost kind of wheaty. But I do get a little bit of an almost wheaty note to this one towards the back of the palate there. It's got a lovely, you know, straight away in the middle of your palate, this one, you're getting a lot of kind of white bready, you're getting a lot of sort of white bready qualities just blanketing the middle of your palate there. So yeah, and the back third of your palate, you do get a little bit more of a kind of wheaty bitiness there. It does almost give you that kind of sort of astringenty thing coming off the tongue almost, so there is a wee bit of wheaty bitiness there in my mind, and that lingers as the further you go into the aftertaste. You can feel some of the kind of thicker yeasty notes there as well, but in the middle of your palate you've got that lighter kind of almost pale malty base to the beer, but then as you go further into the aftertaste it will thicken up a little bit, which I do like. Yeah, because in some ways, the one thing that you find with the Nordic brewed examples of the Belgian style beers, they often feel very, very clean, and a lot of that is because of the quality of water that we have. You know, I commented on that with the Eskilstuna Ölkultur ones. They almost feel they have the perfect kind of flavour profile, if you like, but they felt a little bit cleaner. That I always find the Belgian ones just feel a little bit thicker. This one has the same thing, but it does the thickness in this one, I think, is a little bit, you know, bigger, if you like, than the Eskilstuna ones that I had. But it's very nicely done. This beer, in terms of a Tripel, it does get the thumbs up from me. But again, you've got this thing, it's typical of the Nordic beers because of the water quality. It does have the wetness, if you like, the kind of, you can taste the quality of the water in this beer. But yeah, as I say, that kind of, you've got that lighter malty base there, a bit of the kind of, you can feel a little bit of the wheatiness, I think, coming out. further you go into the aftertaste with this one. But yeah, lovely light kind of malty base. On top of that you get the kind of thicker doughy yeasty notes to it. And in the middle of the palate you've got a nice little almost island in there. You've got this little sort of islandy thing, and what happens on the island is you can feel that's when you get the sort of biscuity, you get this oily biscuity quality there, and it's like a McVitie's, an oily McVitie's digestive type thing. But then right in the centre of that you've got a kind of big sort of sweet caramelly note to it. It's almost like a little bit of a dark kind of boozy caramel if you like, but that's where the alcohol is coming out in the beer in this one. It's almost like the kind of doughy yeasty notes kind of just soak it up, and then it just kind of sits there. And out of that, as you move further out from that, you start to get a more oily biscuity quality. Then as you move towards the edge of the palate, you start to get a few kind of grainy things in there. If you go to the front corners of your palate and then move back a little bit diagonally, you will get one or two little woody undertones to this one. But yeah, I do like how this goes together. In terms of the Tripel, it's definitely one of the more kind of bready, doughy leaning ones that I've had, but you do get enough of that kind of caramelly, biscuity sort of thing that you would expect. Not so much the caramel is just kind of concentrated in a very sort of small dot, if you like, in the middle of your tongue, but you do get the kind of oily, you do get a little bit more of that sort of oily, biscuity McVitie's digestive type thing coming out of this one. But you can feel the alcohol in this one. This is a monster, this beer, but Belgian beers always are. But yeah, lovely stuff, lovely stuff. Thumbs up from me. As I say, this is a style that I really enjoy, and I do think they've done a nice job of this one. They've done it solid there. I'm thinking the thing that's going round in my head at the moment is it says, as I say, it just says corn malt, which is barley malt in English. It doesn't say feta malt, which would be wheat malt, and I'm surprised about that because it does have a good little bit of a wheaty quality coming out of it. The one thing I will say about this as well is that if you focus on the middle of your palate, the further you go into the aftertaste with it, you will start to get the banana flavours coming out of it, and you can feel pushing up the further you go into the aftertaste as well, the clovey flavours kind of come out around the edge of that island with the biscuity flavours that I was talking about. That's in further forward you get the more banana-y notes out of it. You start to get the sweeter banana notes and the kind of clovey spice there. So that's a really interesting point to make about this one. But yeah, I do like how this goes together. In terms of the hoppy side of the beer then, as I was saying, it doesn't say there's hops in this beer, but if you go to the back corners of the palate, there is almost just a little tiny touch of earthiness to it. As you move further forward along the sides of the palate, you do get you can feel there is almost a little bit of a spicy floral note building there, and as you go round the front curve of the tongue, for me, it is fairly distinctive and lighter and grassy. But then just behind that front curve of the palate, on the front third of the tongue, that's where you get a bit of the oily bubble, where the kind of fruity esters would normally roll their way out of the hops. But for me, you don't get so much of that oily bubble in this one, and that's what makes it really interesting. So maybe they haven't used hops in this, and they've maybe used Groot or something like that, who knows. Because yeah, it does feel, the front of your palate does actually feel quite different. It doesn't feel as oily as you would normally expect from this beer style, and that's what makes it quite quirky. But yeah, on that front part of your palate though, if you go towards the kind of back third of it, you will get a little bit of a kind of stronger, kind of darker lemony citrus there. But yeah, you are getting notes. It's kind of like a blanket of different fruits, to be honest with you. You can feel some of the malty, bready notes backing it up, if you like. But yeah, you start to get a little bit of an apricot-y note in there. You can really feel an apricot note. I think there is a wee bit of a slightly stronger mango, in fairness too. But then as you reach the kind of front edge of the palate, it's definitely more lemony and citrus. The notes that I was picking up from the aroma, the kind of gooseberry and things, I don't really get that. Maybe there could be a little bit of a pear. I don't really get the apples out of it. I would say apricot, a little bit of mango, and a little bit of a lemony citrus, and maybe a wee bit of pear. Those are the four kind of main fruits there. But the thing that's strange about the fruity note, like I say, is that it's not oily. So maybe there isn't hops in this one, because it's the hops that really give you that kind of oily vibe to the beer, and this one just doesn't have that, and that's kind of unusual for me with this thing. You do expect a certain level of oiliness from the fruity side of your Tripel, but the banana notes, as I say, they're always kind of, it's almost like banana bread they always feel very infused into the bready side of it. But yeah, I mean, this is a really interesting one, this, because the mouthfeel is a bit different compared to the Belgian brewed ones, and the fruitiness is quite quirky as well, I would say. But yeah, I mean, overall, if we compare the flavour profiles, I think Sahlins have done a pretty damn good job of this, and it gets a thumbs up from me. I wouldn't hesitate to drink that again. Definitely not. Definitely not. Really, really nicely done example of the style. I need to look through their beer list on Untappd and on Systembolaget and just see what's available, because if they've got a quadruple there as well, I might have a go at that. And the blonde, of course, I do enjoy a good Belgian blonde too. So I'll need to just see what other Belgian type beers they've got there. Maybe I need to have something German and something English or Czech or whatever as well. I'll just see what this brewery have available, because if they can produce a Tripel like that, it's quite difficult to do. So that is a pretty impressive feat. So well done to Sahlins Brygghus as well. And if they've gone through all that strife within their first couple of years and come back this strongly, I think that sort of speaks a bit for them as well. That kind of shows what they're all about. So yeah, but flavour wise, this beer gets a thumbs up from me on the Tripel side of things. Definitely a more kind of bready leaning Tripel though, compared to some of the others, which can be a little bit more brown sugary and stuff, and definitely not as oily. But on that note, let's talk about the mouthfeel. So this one for me, yeah, I mean, it's kind of top end of mid-bodied, bottom end of full-bodied. There is an element of oiliness to this one, but it just doesn't strike me as quite as oily as what you would normally get from this style. It feels very kind of clean. There is an element of wetness to it, but like I say, I put that down to the fact that this brewery is from Dalarna. Basically, Borlänge is kind of, it is a fairly substantial town, but you know, if these guys are from outside of that, there's a lot of mountains and forests and stuff, you are going to get very pure water. It is very rural, to be quite honest. And you know, I do like how this, I do like how it all goes together. Actually, I mean, you feel the cleanliness in the water of this. That's what I always like about the Dalarna beers. I mean, Sahlins Brygghus, Uppigårds, Sahlins. I've had a few others from there recently. You do notice this, in fairness, when it comes to the Dalarna county beers, and there's nothing to be faulted. It's got a very nice cleanliness to it. So yeah, does have a bit of the thickness you expect. A bit more, a bit kind of smoother, if you like. As I say, a more malty, yeasty leaning Tripel, this one. But you know, you can feel the wetness and the cleanliness from the mouthfeel. But yeah, definitely top end of mid-bodied, bottom end of full-bodied for me. In terms of IBUs, I think you'd be lucky to get 20 out of this at most. Maybe 15, I think, would be generous as well. Not sure, as I say, I'm kind of drawn on whether there's hops in this one, to be honest. I do wonder if they could have used a bit of Groot in this, which is quite common with the Belgian breweries. But yeah, I do like how it goes together in that regard. The malt base, like I say, quite smooth. There's a bit of sweetness in there as well, and you've got a kind of, you can feel the yeasty qualities of the beer just thickening up a little bit the further you go into the aftertaste. But the fruitiness is fairly light and almost kind of crisp, to be honest, whereas usually you would expect it to be a little bit more oily. But yeah, in terms of the flavour profile, this one does have everything that you would normally want from a Belgian style Tripel. So on that note, it does get a big thumbs up from me. So yeah, a little bit of a different mouthfeel, one of the more bready leaning Tripels you're going to come across, but a really nice interpretation of the style for me. I think that's a good way to kind of sum this one up. So let's leave it at that. This one is the Tripel from Sahlins Brygghus, just outside of Borlänge in Dalarna county, to the northwest of Stockholm, in the middle of Sweden, and they've done a very nice iteration, if you like, a very nice interpretation of this Belgian Tripel style beer. So let's leave it at that. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Sahlins Brygghus as well. Do let me know some other Swedish brewed Tripels, quadrupels, Flanders Reds, Belgian style beers. I'd love to know more breweries that are brewing these Belgian type things here in Sweden and Norway, Denmark as well, because I think these styles, they are brewed far less, I guess you could say, than the IPAs and stuff, but they should be a little bit more appreciated than they are. I love reviewing these ones for you, and this has been a very nice example for me. But yeah, check out my social media, check out Sahlins Brygghus. Thank you again for watching. This one was the Tripel at 9.6% ABV at Sahlins Brygghus, just outside of Borlänge, Dalarna County. An awesome interpretation of the style, and I do recommend that you try it. Slanja, skål, cheers.